everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland Retrospective here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network. And this is my weekly show where my guests and I each pick a film in some shape or form, and hopefully by the end of this episode, you have two films to go check out. And joining me, because it is indeed the fourth Thursday of the month, it is Jeff. Thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely, anytime.
And we do have a bonus episode this month, as the month of April turned out to have five Thursdays this month. So this won't be our last one of the month, but it will be potentially the most thrilling as we take a dive into a couple of films written by David Ayer. With first Training Day, which is written by David Ayer and directed by Anton Fuqua, and then we'll be diving into End of Watch. So a lot of cops, a lot of shooting, a lot of danger. And let's get started with 2001's Training Day. A rookie cop spends his first day as a Los Angeles narcotics officer with a rogue detective who isn't what he appears to be. And if they mean by that an actual cop, that certainly can be argued watching this movie. But Jeff, what are your general thoughts on Training Day?
So I had never seen this before I watched
Okay.
it. So it was very interesting to finally watch the movie that um that is kind of like a gap in my movie knowledge.
Hmm.
Um so being able to like finally see the where I mean I knew where it came from, but finally being able to see the King Kong ain't got shit on me
Yep.
line came from was really cool. Um but then you see like all these other other things in this movie that like you start kind of seeing in like other comedies and things like the testing the drugs before to show that you're cool and stuff like
Hmm.
that. Like that was that's probably something that like originated from this. So it's kind of cool to see like where all these little things that I've seen in like other movies and shows kind of originated from. But overall, I really liked this movie a lot. It's just a great piece for Ethan Hawke and Denzel Washington. Yeah, I had a really good time with this one.
Absolutely. And obviously the biggest thing that this film is known for is Denzel Washington and him winning an Oscar for this.
Hmm.
For lead actor, which is an interesting choice because, he's not our protagonist here. Um,
But
but like
he is like I think it's he's more of the like the lead actor than Ethan Hawke is at in certain points.
he certainly commands the screen and
Yeah.
takes a lot of the focus because Ethan Hawke's role in this film is to be straight-laced guy
Yeah.
who's basically he's thrown into a lion's den his first day in narcotics, and the leader of this pride of
Hmm.
lions is uh Denzel Washington. And Alonzo is a force, and Denzel
Yeah.
Washington is a force. And there's so many just iconic lines that come out of his mouth, or the coolest like whips and stuff like that. He just so
Hmm.
effortlessly cool, but also he is such a bastard in this movie and the stuff that he winds up doing along the way. And
Hmm.
obviously, he's very corrupt and dirty, and the things that and he's not just like, he's not an unhinged force. He is very cold and calculating, and how he sets all of the events in this film in motion.
Hmm. Yeah. I really like how when they're having that kind of standoff in the guy's living room, that
Mhm.
you do kind of see like, oh, like he knew exactly what he was doing this entire time. But
Mhm.
I also think it was a little bit more like I guess convenient for the story because of what we find out about him later and like what it's all building to. like,
Mhm.
his deadline to midnight. I'm trying not to give too many spoilers away, but I mean, it's a 25-year-old movie, so if you haven't seen
Yeah.
it, go see it. Um, but I think it was just a little too like coincidental that this he had this deadline on this exact day that he was training Ethan Hawke's character.
And I I'm not gonna go around and say David Ayer's an incredible screenwriter. Um, he writes some cool stuff. And like narratively, there's a lot of details to this, but yes, it does leverage upon a lot of there.
Yeah.
This has to be like the perfect domino set for this to like all fall in a very specific kind of way
Hmm.
until Jake Ethan Hawke's character is like that one domino that he's like, not today,
Yeah.
and stops it from getting to the end. But I think their dynamic is so interesting because you know, we've seen cops like this in many of stories, like uh Huxley from LA Confidential, where it's like that straight laced, they want to do the right thing, and they're put in a situation where forces around them are nudging them in the wrong direction. And the manipulation that Alonzo pulls on this guy, like he literally pulls a gun on him to start smoking uh
Hmm.
drugs and stuff, and it's just like this is so wild. And from the start, Alonzo's a piece of shit and such a terrible person because he just shows no respect for Jake. But then it's that weird situation where he has this kind of sagely wisdom of the streets and
Yeah.
this very specific perspective on what the world's really like, because nobody knows better of the woes and the darkness of the world than one of the dark forces perpetrating it
Hmm.
and perpetuating it, because Alonzo is one of those dark forces in the world that makes it a worse place.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most interesting quotes that he has in the film, because like there's you can just read quotes from Denzel Washington from this movie and just extremely entertaining. But I think one of the most profound ones, like to protect the sheep, you got to catch the wolf, and to take what, and it takes a wolf to catch a wolf. So he tries to like give himself the excuse to be the way that he is because of the
Yeah.
world around him. But in actuality, you're just being one of the wolves that's making it more dangerous for everybody else.
Hmm.
And there's some really messed up, like, which also, this movie is so 2001.
Yeah.
The needle drop, like the needle drop at the very beginning where he starts up his car and everything, and you're just like, holy crap,
Yeah.
California.
Where it's playing Biggie. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, yep, there we go. And the fact that Dr. Dre and Macy Gray and Snoop Dogg
And yeah,
all
that well, and then there's there's a out of nowhere Terry Crews towards the
cameo
end
up.
too.
Yeah.
Where I don't even think he had a line in the whole movie. I think he just shows
No,
up and he just looks like he's Terry Crews.
he's uncredited, but the thing is, Terry Crews is so specifically like noticeable that he
Yeah.
can't just like meld into the background as because he is a background character in this movie. But like that whole
Hmm.
scene with Macy Gray
Yeah.
and him going into her house and it turning into a shootout, and then just casually pulling up to a restaurant and valet parking this car with bullet holes in the back window. I'm like, the way that this man can just get away with stuff is wild.
But like, yeah, he's acting like it's just like, just another day.
Well, and the line is iconic, but it truly is this egomaniacal perspective that he has. King Kong ain't got shit on me, because
Hmm.
he really thinks he is that untouchable and that powerful. And it's kind of crazy that somebody like Jake is the one that takes him down, because Jake's very unassuming as a
Hmm.
character at the very beginning of the film. And this is well before Ethan Hawke, I feel like, really got to start sinking his teeth into really complex characters. because
Yeah.
like Jake's a Jake's a blank slate of a protagonist kind of character, and Ethan Hawke is a very talented actor, and I don't know how you felt about it, Jeff, but every time he did his angry face, he's like, there's that one shot where he was on the bus and he's just like
Hmm.
sitting there angry, and I'm like,
And he like cocks his gun on the bus.
yeah, I'm like, I don't. There's a couple moments I didn't know if I was gonna laugh or be like,
Hmm.
yeah, he looks real cool. I'm like, I never once. I'm just like, look at you, Ethan Hawke, looking real angry. But like to this point, what he had the before sunrise, which is
Yeah, he had Before
it's a
Sunrise.
romance, and then like his younger work, like obviously Dead Poet Society and stuff like that. So this was really interesting time for him as an actor, and
Yeah.
honestly, at the end of the day, he's completely overshadowed in this movie, which is why people think of Denzel Washington when they think of Training Day, because it's hard
Yeah.
not to.
Yeah, and that's kind of something I was thinking about too. Is like I think you could swap out Ethan Hawke for pretty much anybody, and it'll be still be the same movie. But if you swap out Denzel Washington with someone else, completely different movie.
Completely different movie.
Like if
I,
you swapped out Denzel Washington with like Samuel L. Jackson, it's a miles different movie.
yep. And nothing against Samuel L. Jackson. I love Samuel L. Jackson,
Yeah,
but I don't think there would be that sense of there's just something powerful about
yeah,
what Denzel Washington can do as an actor. He's the reason, like, you watch Gladiator 2 and you remember Denzel Washington just chewing every single bit of scenery he could, even though that
yeah.
movie's kind of a mess. And he's that kind of actor that can just
Sure.
grab a film. And, this film really does rely a lot on conveniences, like the whole entire thing, Deus Ex uh cousin phone call. The fact that like
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
I love the scene because it's really powerful and intense, but the amount of convenience narratively for Ethan Hawke to be in that situation with Jake about to be killed by these Mexicans only to be saved because he saved one of their cousins earlier in the day.
That's a very yeah. I was like, talk about
I'm
a
like, this is a leap.
small world. Like there's no there's I go to Chicago almost every single day for work, and like I don't run into nearly the same people every day going to work because like that's just not how life is. You like the chances of him, having saving that girl, getting a hold of her wallet and having it on him all day, and then getting almost killed by the guy who is her cousin. I'm like, the chances of that are astronomical.
Yeah. David Ayer's dealing in some real convenience
Yeah.
in how this narrative pulls together. But it's one of those types of things where one, I don't think this is a stretch saying this is by far one of the best directed films that Anton Fuqua
Yeah.
has done, because like Anton Fuqua is that kind of director where it's like he'll occasionally put out a really entertaining and good movie, but also
Hmm.
like cringe. And it's just like, wow, that was not good. But like he has that in him, and I really feel like this is probably I guess we're going to talk about End to Watch, so that'll be an interesting conversation. But in general, I think this
Hmm.
movie's like the defining movie for both Fuqua and Air in their careers, because like
Yeah.
obviously David Ayer's had End to Watch, Fury, and Suicide Squad that kind of like
Yeah.
just completely derailed his career after that. But this film is such an interesting collection. Like, it's that kind of movie where, like, hey, look, the main Mexican gangster guy here, Smiley, played by
Yeah.
renowned, played by renowned Kiwi and Polynesian actor Cliff Curtis, um, who honestly I am sure he has played so many different people of color in movies, and it's just like, well, he could be a
Yeah,
Mexican. But there's so many recognizable names. In what world do you have like a scene with a bunch of head honchos of the EA's office and stuff, and Tom Berenger is just like
yeah,
casually there, and even Harris Yulin, who's a really talented and recognizable character actor, popping up there, and you're just like, that's the kind of movie this is. And like, love Scott Glenn. Obviously,
yeah.
he's had such a long career of things. For me, the first thing I immediately think of is Stick from Daredevil. But
That's honestly the first thing that I've ever watched him in was
interesting.
Stick from Daredevil. Like
Yep.
I had no idea who he was before that, and then I honestly don't even think I've seen anything of his besides Daredevil and now this.
Well,
He's just not
if I'm
really
not
in my circle, you know.
because if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure he's in Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, is he? Oh,
Because
then I don't even remember. I don't even remember.
it's interesting because he's Crawford, the
Okay.
FBI guy. And but he's that kind of actor who pops up, and there's a lot of actors like that.
Oh, he's
Besides,
in
in
White
like,
Lotus too.
oh yeah, he was in the most recent season of White
Yeah, he
Lotus.
was in the. I forgot about. I completely forgot about that. Okay, so
And
there's a few things I'm looking at his IMDb right now, and there is a few things I have seen him in. I just don't remember.
one of those kind of character actors.
Yeah,
Also shout out to Ava Mendez. This was like probably right before she really became like big
yeah,
and started popping up in a lot of things, and you know, Mrs. Ryan Gosling now. For the most part, but like obviously she's here because she's very attractive, and you get that one moment towards the end of the movie where she's like half naked on the bed, and it's just like
yeah,
that kind of casting is, yeah, this is a man movie.
yeah. She
Um,
really hasn't been in anything before this.
that is interesting. I didn't even look to see if this was like her big debut, but this might have been
I
like her
mean,
first
she's
big
there. There
movie.
are there are a couple of movies that she's been in, but they're not. I mean, they're not titles I recognize.
Hmm. Which, yes, this is before Hit and Ghost Rider, where she was uh main love interest in the
Yeah,
mid to late aughts. But
because
no,
because after this, the next title I recognize her in is Too Fast, Too Furious in 2003.
oh yeah, she was in that too. I
But in
remember her
between that,
being
there's
in
All About the Benjamins, but I don't even know what that is.
that. Mhm. But like, this is the type of film that this is an entertaining type of
Yeah,
movie. I don't think it's like a great movie. This is like the kind of movie that was going to get nominated for like Best Picture and stuff like that. But it
yeah,
is that type of movie where you have the right performance that's going to get the attention. And honestly, this film is worth just watching because of Denzel Washington's performance. And that speech he gives to the jungle at the end is just one of the most epic,
hmm
coolest things anybody's ever said in a movie.
yeah.
Um,
And I think that people do go to this movie who haven't seen it before because of that reason. They go back to
yep.
see him more than oh, it's a David Ayer film or it's an Anton Fuqua film or Ethan
Mhm.
Hawke film. They're watching this film because of Denzel Washington, nothing else.
100%. 100% for sure. And it's interesting because Anton Fuqua has, oh yeah, Michael, which will be coming out shortly
Yeah,
after this
I
episode
didn't realize
drops.
I didn't realize he was doing that movie too.
Yep. And obviously he has a good relationship with Denzel Washington because
Yeah.
the Equalizer films, and Denzel's so great at those movies. Like those are like real solid action movies, like solid.
Yeah.
But like the fact that Denzel Washington's in them just makes them that much better and much more interesting. And similar to this, like this film is completely elevated. You brought up that really important point that is like this would not be the same experience if Denzel
Not
Washington
at
wasn't
all.
in it. Not at all. But
Yeah, because I mean, if you replace Denzel Washington with any other African American actor, it's not the same movie. Like if you think of like African American actors who were popular at that time, I mean, it's not the same movie because if you do, you know, Samuel L. Jackson, he's gonna be too funny. If you do
Mm,
like a Will Smith, it's gonna be a completely different movie. If you do like I don't know how popular he was at this time, but if you do Morgan Freeman, it's a completely different movie. It might be a little bit more on the same level because he's a great actor, but like it's still not the same movie at all.
it
It's
it's just
Denzel
that
Washington is the reason for this movie.
it's just that perfect balance of he can sell the wisdom and the depth in some of
Yeah,
these moments, but damn, he is just endlessly charismatic. And I don't
yeah.
think there's a whole lot of actors that could find that pitch perfect balance in this. It would be interesting to see, and if this film was made today, I think it would have been very interesting to because actually, how old do you think Denzel Washington was when this movie was made? Because thinking about
Probably in
like,
his 40s. If I were to guess, because he's probably like in his 70s now.
yeah,
It's
because
been
I'm
25
thinking like
years.
thinking about somebody like this 100% would be a vehicle for like a Michael B. Jordan going into
Yeah.
like his part of his career, or if it didn't get completely derailed, like a Jonathan Majors would have been very interesting because Jonathan Majors could be very scary too, and I
He
think
can't,
that's
yeah.
what helps too. Is Denzel Washington is scary in this movie, and you're afraid of him when he
Hmm.
needs to be. But I guess Jeff, do you have anything else you want to add about Training Day?
No, no, I really like it. I don't know how often I will go back to it.
Hmm.
I feel like one time was enough. But like if I was like in like a group of friends and they're like, "Oh, I've never seen this movie," I was like, "All right, let's check it out." Like I would watch it in that sense, but I've seen it once. I don't know if I really need to go and see it again. But it
I
makes
think
me
this is.
want to go and watch. It makes me want to go watch more Denzel Washington, if I'm being honest.
Mhm. I think this is one of those types of movies that would be an engaging enough fun experience to watch with a group of people,
Yeah,
especially because everybody's going to be quoting Denzel Washington quotes from this movie. Um, except there's a lot of things that come out of his mouth in this movie that, especially if neither of us would venture to quote some of the things that
right.
he says in this movie. He fully commits to the bit. Now,
Sure.
there's a lot of energy here, similarly. And next up, we're talking about 2012's End of Watch. And this is actually directed by David Ayer as well. So he started directing his own films instead of just being a screenwriter. The shot documentary style, this film follows the daily grind of two young police officers in LA who are partners and close friends. This is starring Jake Gyllenhaal, because just love that Jake Gyllenhaal on this podcast, and Michael Pena. But Jeff, what were your general thoughts on End of Watch?
Well, I'll say this much. I'm really I liked Training Day a lot more.
Okay,
I'll say that much. I did not like End of Watch very much.
okay. What were some of the things that didn't really work for you?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned documentary style because there's so much as a filmmaker
Hmm.
myself, I notice a lot of these things. I'm like, yeah, there's parts of this that are documentary esque, but there's a lot more about this that is not a documentary. Like there's camera angles in here that I don't understand. If they're trying to make it a documentary, like they're trying to make it a found footage thing, there's shots in here that make absolutely no sense. Like just from a filmmaking standpoint, like
Yep.
there's shots where because like there should be no one else around filming them, and like there's shots where they're both in the same shot and someone else is shooting them, but there's no one else there. So I'm like,
Yep.
is it a documentary or is it not a documentary? Like, what is it? You know?
It, I think the most accurate way to describe what this film actually is that this is just like handheld camera shot film. Like,
Yeah, of
because
course.
at the end of the day, it's like because if you try to treat this as some kind of doc. like documentary style filmmaking, you're right. Especially there's moments in that like final shootout, and you're like, where'd they get that footage?
Yeah.
Where it's just like, did like this gang provide some did they have a camera
Right.
person too?
Right. But
And
that's exactly my point. Is that like
Mhm.
there's so much of this that's obviously not documentary. Like there's no one else shooting them, especially in that last like scene, that last big scene.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's absolutely no way that this can be called like mockumentary, documentary, whatever you want to call it, found footage, because it's not like 50%. I would say more than 50% of this film is not shot like a
Mhm.
documentary. Like,
Yeah.
so if that's the way, I think that's something that they tried to do before, like they tried to do after the thing was shot. Like they wrote this film as like a film, and then David Ayer was like, you know what would make this really interesting is if it was a documentary, and then they had to like change parts of the script to make it work that way. And I
Because
just and
like
I don't know if that totally works.
I feel like it feels like it would have been interesting if they did shoot this generally like a regular
Yeah,
film and incorporate like body cam footage and stuff like that.
yeah,
And like if they're driving around in the car and had the camera on, and
hmm
because not gonna lie, one of some of the screenplays that I wrote specifically, whenever the characters are driving around in their car, it is captured like a car cam in
yeah,
terms of like how that is, and I think that helps like the intimacy of it. And I could see why they went for that because you are really trying to see like the day in the life here, but
yeah.
it fails in that respect. So if you're really trying to lean in and make this film be that, they take so many cheats with that,
So many.
so many.
Like I
But
think it would have been real. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think it does benefit moments like especially like the final scene.
Yeah,
Like throwing something like that in there, that feels very intimate and very emotional. And I think those types of things, or even like, wedding footage and like recording like a wedding and stuff like that, I think that would have been interesting. They're like, well, we're going to commit to the bit, but like half-ass commit to the bit and not
yeah,
actually like, hey, we're going to use handheld footage, but we're not going to put any logic, this being a documentary, into the actual movie.
exactly. And like, and that's. I think it like because we see things in other films like the first film I can think of at the moment, let's go with The Martian, because you see
Yep.
these like moments where he's like talking to the camera and he's
Mhm.
explaining what's going on. And we have these moments in End of Watch where Gyllenhaal is talking to the camera and explaining, like, oh, this is my partner, this is my guy, and this guy is an
Mhm.
asshole. Like, that's fine. But don't make like if you're gonna do that, like if you're gonna make that part of the film, make it the entire film, because then we see things like that movie Chronicle that came out like I think in
Mhm.
the same year, like or
Oh,
maybe a few years before that.
the idea of found footage, like in that way, I feel like was so damn popular at this
Yeah,
point in time.
yeah, and I think like because we had already gotten like I think we had already gotten like Paranormal Activity at this point. We
Yep.
got Chronicle, and I think this is kind of coming at like the tail end of a lot of these films that were generally more popular.
Hmm.
And I think David Ayer just wanted to do that in his own film, but it just doesn't work the same way.
Now, that aside, obviously that's a big part of it. How did you feel about like the actual story and the characters and the performances?
I think performances are great. I
Mhm.
think Gyllenhaal and Pena, they're really good together. I like them both. So
Mhm.
I was liking what they were doing on camera. A lot of the supporting like cops, like like there's so many people in this movie. I didn't even realize it when I first watched. Like I thought the only three main people I would know in this were Gyllenhaal, Pena, and Anna Kendrick. But then you
Mhm.
see like surprise David Harbour showing up, surprise
It was a
Frank
dick.
Grillo and
Yeah.
America Ferrera, and like and all these other people, and I'm like, oh my god, like I had no idea this film was like stacked.
Yeah. I think America Ferrera is probably the most surprising because I
Yeah.
think like her character is not the type of character you would expect from her, especially because
Hmm.
like actually how far removed was like Ugly Betty from this? It
I
ended two
don't think
years before
I was
this.
gonna say I was gonna say not far, not far.
So like I think this is a very interesting career choice for her to be doing a character so very different than what people expect.
Yeah.
Um, Frank Grillo is like the most expected character actor to pop up in a movie like this because it's like all he does is play like cops and military people and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So like I think he really fits in it. And David Harbour just he's such a dick. This
Yeah.
movie, and I think he plays that so perfectly. And it was very interesting because he was popping up in a whole bunch of random movies at this point. Like he was in Quantum of Solace, the James Bond
He
movie.
was.
Yes, I remember
Oh my
rewatching
god.
that, being like, he's Jeffrey Wright, Felix Leiter's like the other guy with him, and I'm like, what?
Oh, okay.
I'm like, what?
So you know what?
Um,
Whenever I go back and I watch the Daniel Craig movie, I usually skip Quantum of Solace because I get bored with it.
well, honestly, Jeff, I don't think anybody would blame you. Um, it's, it is one of the most forgettable James Bond movies for sure.
Yeah, I
Especially
I like to play a game when I watch movies nowadays. I like to count how many MCU stars are in it, and in this one there's four.
oh man, and yeah, there is indeed. And it's very interesting because like David Harbour plays such a tiny role in Suicide Squad, and realizing now that like
That's right.
he had starred in other David Ayer films, I'm like, okay, that makes a little bit more sense in that case.
Yeah,
And here's the thing, I love Anna Kendrick, and I think Anna Kendrick has her character is not the most complex of
she
characters, and she's
doesn't have a
very
lot
sweet.
going on here.
No, and she's just being sweet and has a nice smile and being Anna Kendrick. So like,
Yeah.
sure. And I do love the dynamic between Jake Gyllenhaal and Michael Pena in this, and it feels so authentic. And I think at the heart of it, if you didn't have that, this would feel like a very hollow experience. But I think
Yeah.
that does some big heavy lifting. I think that final shootout is quite intense and very
Oh
raw
yeah.
and visceral
Crazy.
and crazy. And like some of those final moments of this where like there's some pretty close, high powered like weapon moments happening and that are very emotionally impactful. And mm, I don't mind spoiling movies here, but this is one where I don't want to completely spoil the ending of it. But how did you feel broadly about how the fate of these characters?
Um, I thought it was going to end differently. I knew there
Mm,
was going to be one big, you know,
yeah,
spoiler alert.
it's
I
a
knew there was going to
dangerous
be
job.
I knew there was going to be a death. I
Yep.
thought as I was watching it, I thought it was going to be both. And I was
Hmm.
like, wow, that's a downer ending. But then you see who lived and who survived, and you're like, still a downer. Wow, I was not expecting like I mean I knew that one of them was going to go,
Hmm.
and I was surprised, and I was a little surprised. I was surprised, and I wasn't surprised. Like I was surprised that they didn't go with who like was filming the documentary to begin with. But I
Yeah.
was also not surprised because I'm like, this movie is like the tear jerker that everyone's saying it is. I'm like, the who died made the most sense.
Well, and that's the thing. I think in context, it was a sadder death,
Yeah,
based off of their family dynamics and stuff like that. And also to make sense meta contextually too. Seeing as like one of these actors is a bigger name like leading man type actor. And that's an interesting thing too, because this wasn't quite where I feel like Jake Gyllenhaal hit that point where it's like, wow, he's a must-see leading man in movies
Yeah.
quite yet. And because like case in point, we Enemy and Prisoners was the year after this. And
Mhm.
then obviously I think the biggest spotlight that he got was Nightcrawler, which there was a lot of buzz about him potentially getting nominated for an Oscar for that. And then I feel like since if you see Jake Gyllenhaal attached as the lead of a movie, I think in a similar type way as like a Joaquin Phoenix, people are going to be interested.
Yeah.
And I feel like they have some interesting parallels in the case that like they completely commit to some really intense and weird like leading men type roles and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Um but overall, I think like story wise, this is more of like a slice of life, kind of like showing you what it's like being a cop. And
Yeah.
obviously they have the added layer that they messed with the wrong cartel. Um,
Yeah.
and have that looming element leading up to like the big climax of the film. But I think this is a really well acted film, and I think the emotions are there, and I really love those two main characters. But you do bring up some really important points about like just from like the conceit of the filmmaking they go for. They didn't even try that hard to make
Yeah.
it really click in that way.
And it's something that like I'll probably never go back to this film.
Hmm.
It's but it's one of those things that like if I were to go back to this film, like if someone wanted to watch it and I was just there, it's
Hmm.
all I'm gonna think about. And it's all that's gonna just nag at me the entire time I'm watching it. And it's gonna make me like the movie less. Because
Well,
I'm gonna keep
and
thinking about how poorly planned out this filming was.
And if you're the type of person where you do connect to that type of thing, it is very distracting because the second you think about it, and I feel like I'm becoming more uh aware of
Yeah.
found footage films now and watching them like I just watched Paranormal Activity 4 because it wound up being the review request for my website this month. And there's moments where I'm like, why would they be filming this? And like it's like you the more and more I watch films like this, I'm just like, it doesn't make any sense. Like
But even
how
with like Paranormal Activity, like that's a kind of found footage thing that like I don't like that movie very much. It's not one of my I don't like scary movies much, but that's a kind of like found footage that I can kind of get behind because like it's a ghost type of thing. Like you're trying to like find evidence of a ghost. So yeah, you're gonna set up a camera in the corner of your room and you're gonna try to film yourself sleeping every night to see what happens. Like that I understand more
well,
than
and
the
the
way they
first
did
Paranormal
this.
Activity, when I did watch that for the first time, I didn't question it because they at
Yeah.
least put in the effort that like that made sense. And
Hmm.
something like the Blair Witch Project, it's like I'm I think one of my what people would conceive as a big hot take is I don't actually like that movie. But like most of the time it's like they're like filming a movie and stuff like that. So like they
Yeah.
have a camera around. It makes sense at least that. It's just those characters annoy the living hell out of me. Um
Yeah. I just think there's some found footage that's really good,
mhm.
and I think there's some that don't exceed as well. And I think this is one of those ones that just doesn't exceed very well.
I think this film would have benefited if they incorporated
Yeah.
some found footage elements into a regularly shot film, but they didn't. So then it's weird when you
Hmm.
have moments that they shouldn't have documentary camera footage, and they just do. And that's one of the conceits that like if you are going to want to really enjoy this and really get engrossed in it, you have to put that aside. And if you can't, then I know in your case, Jeff, it's like it's going to be bothering you. What's really funny is when if I eventually rewatch End of Watch, I'm just going to be thinking about that now the whole entire movie. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
exactly what Jeff was talking about.
because when you notice it, it's hard to not think about it.
It's hard to unnotice for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to unnotice.
But Jeff, do you have any other final thoughts on End of Watch?
No, no, I don't think I have anything. It's if you like this kind of like cops slice of life type of thing, this is your movie. But I'm good. I don't need to watch it again.
And I think just reinforcing and like I don't think David Ayer is the type of filmmaker that I'm too concerned about like checking out all of his movies and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I have seen some of his that are real stinkers. Because he's put
Oh,
some really
yeah.
bad ones out
I
relatively
don't even want to go
recently.
down that rabbit hole.
Nope. Especially at least one or two during the pandemic. I'm like, what the hell was this? But anyway, and also he seems to be rehashing the same motifs a lot of the time in a lot
Yeah.
of his films. But Jeff, thank you as always for coming on and chatting some movies with me.
Yeah, no problem, man.
And this is a special fifth Thursday month. So Adam, part of the SPDM crew, will be coming on and we'll be doing a couple of Edward Norton films with American History X and 25th Hour. So be prepared. At least one of those movies is going to get real heavy. That discussion. And next month, we're going to get weird and thought provoking as Jeff and I are going to dive into a couple of Charlie Kaufman films with Anomalisa and Synecdoche, New York. But thank all of you for listening. Make sure to like, comment, and share on this episode. What is your favorite like cop movie? And make sure to follow or subscribe if you ever listen to your podcast. The SPDM Crew Podcasting Network is ever expanding. All types of great shows with all different types of interests. If you want to be a guest on one of these shows or you have an idea for a podcast, reach out to us on our website and join the crew. If you like our logo, check out HiFlyer Creative for all your digital marketing needs. But most importantly, thank you as always for tuning in and supporting the Wasteland Retrospective here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network.